person in such country has a certain incentive or constraint to do action X or Y. This person is not to be subjected to Western notions of democratically held elections with minority rights secured by constitutional measures, etc. Yet, at the same notion, in order to prevent this political trap, there has to be some sort of limiting on the immediate incentive of that individual to, for example, disrespect or not accord another individual their said private property right. Now, private property rights is obviously a deeply held conviction, ratiocinated conviction by liberal democratic reformers coming out of a certain age. So my question then becomes, how can you, under this political economy trap, regulate or relegate democracy as such to simply the mere holding of elections or the mere constitutional legal framing of, for example, maybe free speech or free church assembly, and then not argue that really one of the key political issues is private property in democracy?
Sure. Well, I understand what you're saying. I mean, look, just to step back from a political economy, the way I understand it, and again, we can debate that term, but I view it as basically the intersection of politics and economics, and really the application of the economic way of thinking to the political realm. And again, I'm not saying that's necessarily the only definition, but that's how I think of it. So, but you're exactly right, which is, and that's kind of what the political economy trap, I think, gets at, though, is this contradiction between the two parts, which is we have a vision of politics, we have a vision of the economy. You could also add in the legal sector and the social, the way people interact in civil society, and oftentimes those two things conflict with each other. And so I guess that's kind of at the core what that point is. So we have to recognize that trade-off and then figure out what we want to do. And one way is prioritizing it. And I don't have I'm not going to say which one should be prioritized over the other.
The very point is that bourgeois democratic republicanism is secured. I mean, very few would disagree with this, even marxists would agree.
Sure.
That sort of that is secured by the individual property right, by the right to property that's guaranteed in a sovereign, and the sovereign, for example, may be the Constitution, or it may be, in cases like a monarch or whatever, case, right? So the sovereign is that will secure the private property right of any citizen of that nation state. So that's inherently politically economic. Okay, so then to argue that you don't want to export democracy through, for example, multi-party constitutionalism, multi-party parliamentarianism, you are already doing it by saying free trade for Afghanistan, free trade in Saudi Arabia, et cetera, et cetera. You're already establishing a political, economic foothold in this country, if you will.
Maybe. I mean, here's the thing, and maybe this is where I'm being unclear. I would just leave Afghanistan alone. They can do whatever they want. So I'm not saying we should force free trade on them. I'm saying, to the same extent I say this, as a professor, I'm willing to listen to any offers for my services. I'm not saying I'll take it, and I don't want you to force me to come work here, but if you'd like to offer me a trade, a salary, I will consider it. I'm not imposing anything on you or anyone here at Loyola. If the administration came and talked to me and said, we'll pay you X, would you consider it? I'd say, sure. And that's what I mean by that. All I'm saying is the U.S., and that's why I was saying about unilateral free trade. The U.S. should basically offer its goods and services and access to its markets to any willing trading partner.
But then your ends become slightly questionable.
Why is that?
Because you presuppose the ends of general health, general developmental welfare of certain nation states. But at the same moment, you're saying leave Afghanistan only. There's humanitarian. We'll talk about it. So there's humanitarian issues
I don't
at stake.
What do you mean, though? Why is it explain that to me?
Okay, so there are humanitarian issues at stake that people might argue for country X, right? Let's just use an abstract. Not that it's necessarily Afghanistan.
Oh, sure.
Because we didn't necessarily invade Afghanistan.
Points well taken.
Humanitarian concerns. But say if we were to just place our military